pledge allegiance, and then Commissioner Dave Jones will lead us in the invocation. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Preceding our invocation, I'd like to read Psalms 121, verse 1 and 2. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. So, Father, as we come to you today, we just give you thanks for the blessings that you bring forth for this county and for the productivity of our land. And, Father, we give you thanks for the spring time that is emitting the growing season. We will remind you that we could use some rain and give you thanks for that. And today, as we come to you with this meeting of county business, we'd ask that you'd give us your hand and guidance as we conduct that business. We give you that thanks today in Jesus' name. Amen.
Chair comments this morning include noting that Susan Richmeyer, our county attorney, was recently elected to the board for the Kansas County and District Attorneys Association, and on page 8 of their magazine, very nice article about our county attorney. Kudos to her. On our consent agenda this morning is approval of our minutes, accounts payable, tax roll changes, and a cereal malt beverage license, which has been approved by staff. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, so move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda, including the items noted therein. Is any further comment? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This morning, we will allow for public comment. If anyone has anything they would like to address the commission, please do so at this time. Please state your name.
Good morning. I'm Carolyn Crouch. I am the director for the West Plains Extension District, and I'm here this morning to invite.
Pull the microphone.
Okay, sorry. My name is Carolyn Crouch. I'm the West Plains Extension District Director, and I'm here to invite the county commissioners to an open forum that K-State is hosting with Dr. Linton on April 25th. Many of you probably have already received the invitation and may possibly have already VP'd. If not, we'd love for you to join us. There is also the night before on Monday night, April 24th, from 6 to 7:30, a presentation called Calling All Cats. So if you know any youngsters that would be interested in joining us, it's an opportunity for them to come and visit with Dr. Linton about attending K-State, along with some of the folks from the student body of K-State, which currently the student body president is Parker Vogelmore from Scott County. So we would love to visit with anybody that would like to come and join us for that. But if you would like to come join us for the open forum, it's from 8:30 to 9:30 Tuesday morning. And then we also have some other opportunities for the public to join us if you're interested in that. I can get you more information. There's several different programs that they're going to be hosting, and everything from talking with the community college to water resources. So I just wanted to invite you. If you have any more questions or would like the RSVP, let me know, and I'll be happy to send it to you.
That's at the Clarion, right?
It is at the Clarion, yes. Yes, it is, the public forum.
Commissioner?
And that's open to the public.
Caroline, while you're here, and first of all, I appreciate you coming in and making that personal invitation to us, but also appreciate what you're doing as director for the Extension District. But would you mention to the commissioners here and to the public, you have some openings on the board that we need to search out, and, well, not we specifically, but we as a public need to search out candidates for, because that election's coming up this year. So can you state to the commissioners what openings are, what there are as openings in Finney County and in Scott County?
I'd be happy to. Thank you, Lon. We do have 2 board positions here in Finney County, and 2 board positions in Scott County that'll be opening up. Well, I should back that up. Possibly 2 here, 1 for sure. We elect in odd years, and so we have 4 members on our board from each county to make up our district. And so we are seeking individuals that'd like to run for that position. They do need to file with the county clerks prior to noon on June 1st. So if there's any interest in that, I cannot actively seek folks to run on my board to be my boss, but I'm happy to answer any questions. And Mr. Pishnik can also probably, as our liaison, he could probably help with that too. I mean, possibly, I guess I shouldn't just throw it out there, but if somebody has questions, he might be able to answer those as well. Right, so Scott County residents can run in Scott County and Finney County, that is correct. So there's been we always have questions, we're always, being districted in Kansas is somewhat new, believe it or not, and so we're always coming up with new questions, and one of the questions is if they had to be a registered voter to be able to, in order to file, my understanding is they have to be a registered voter. So. Okay, thank you. So, and if anybody else would like to have any questions about extension, we're more than happy to help. You know, our whole drive is to be able to work for the people in our communities to help educate them on anything, topics from, you know, horticulture to home environments to parenting, you name it. K-State probably has something that can help cover that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to squeeze out. I got to head to budget meeting.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on into the business agenda. Is there anyone here from the Garden City Fire Department on their report? Does not appear. So I hope the commissioners have had a chance to review those incident statistics and presentation. Next, we'll move to Resolution 11-2023. John?
Good morning.
Good morning.
The applicant, Dwayne Palmer, on behalf of Stephen Crane, is requesting to rezone the property generally located at 8545 North Chamelka Road from RI Rural Industrial District to RR Rural Residential District. This area just went through the planning process, also known as Crane Addition, and contains a total of 4.59 acres. There are 2 lots. Lot 1 contains 2.47 acres and Lot 2 contains 2.12 acres. There's currently a house on Lot 2, and the property owner plans to build a home on Lot 1. The proposed use of residential is consistent with the comprehensive plan and future land use, and shows this area as mixed-use potential. RR Rural Residential is the most appropriate zoning district for a single-family dwelling within the county and provides a small variety of uses. The governing body may make its recommendation and state their findings according to the criteria down below. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of the rezone request at the March 16th meeting. There are 3 alternatives. The governing body may adopt the Planning Commission's recommendation by approving the proposed resolution. The governing body may override the Planning Commission's recommendation by a 2/3 majority vote, or the governing body may return the recommendation to the Planning Commission with a statement specifying the basis for the governing body's failure to approve or disapprove. And staff recommends alternative 1.
Thank you. Questions from commissioners? Is there a motion to approve the?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve Resolution 11-2023.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 11-2023. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Me. I voted against the plat. I voted against the rezone. I don't like the configuration of this plat. I have the luxury of doing that because the motion carries.
Thank you.
From Elisa Charles, Assistant Neighborhood and Development Services Director.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. Good, how are you guys? Good. This morning I have before you an amendment to Article 23, which is the temporary and accessory uses. So just to give you some background, this is from Joseph and Abby Fry that are requesting this amendment. They live on a 2-acre property within Finney County, which under the current regulations does not permit them to have a metal storage container on a permanent basis. So how the regulations are currently, anything from 2 to 5 acres, you're allowed to have a temporary one up to 90 days is the max that you can have it. If you have 5 acres or more, you can apply for a conditional use permit to have it on a permanent basis. So what they are requesting is that an amendment be made to allow for the residential's lots that are 2 to 5 acres to have no more than one unaltered structure. And then it meet all the zoning and building code requirements. Anything that would be more than 5 acres doesn't specify the number of structures allowed. And so that's the amendment that they are requesting. The Planning Commission did not recommend approval at the March 16th meeting. However, the applicants have requested that the governing body hear their amendment. Staff did work with county legal and McKinsey to kind of work through this amendment. Before you, you have 2 different resolutions, somewhat similar. The resolution 1 is what was presented to the Planning Commission. Resolution 2 is kind of what we did to clean up the amendment by separating out the 2 to 5 acres and then changing it to say the structure which was previously have been a wheeled vehicle or portion of a wheeled vehicle. So your alternatives are you can adopt the Planning Commission's recommendation by not approving the resolution. You may override the Planning Commission's recommendation by a 2/3 majority vote and adopt Resolution 1. You may override the Planning Commission's recommendation by a 2/3 majority vote and adopt Resolution 2, or you may return the recommendation to the Planning Commission with a statement specifying the basis for the governing body's failure to approve or disapprove. Staff is unable to make a recommendation. However, if the board chooses to amend Section 23.070, the Finney County zoning regulations, staff would recommend alternative 1, which would be Resolution 2. Questions for me?
Yeah, plenty of them.
I'm sure.
So, help me out, if you would, please, Alicia. Why can't you make a recommendation?
So staff did not recommend approval when we went to the Planning Commission. We didn't feel like we could change our recommendation. We do have concerns when you think about lot sizes, especially for the lots that are 2 acres, when you think about their septic tank and running out of space for that. However, again, accessory structures they're allowed to have. But just with the overall character of some neighborhoods, metal containers might not go over so well. So our recommendation was not approval, and that's just based on how it's been consistent with our regulations in the past.
All right, that was my question. Open it up to the commissioners, please.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I think there's one more element that needs to be considered, and you kind of hinted to it. You said something about the lot location. To me, that container out 10 miles in the country is a whole lot different than 10 feet across the street from the city limits, and nowhere is that reflected in here. So, my suggestion, could a person take a look at this objectively and allow perhaps something outside of the development envelope that's in our plan, and something different inside where you might offend a neighbor? I'm posing a question.
Yeah, that's something that we can consider, if that's something you'd like to add, that it be outside the development envelope, for those acres or those lots that are 2 to 5 acres.
Just that I'm acquainted with a couple of people, Mr. Chairman, that use those metal storage containers for things like oil products for, the oil for their tractors and bearings and things that need to be kind of dust-free in the environment. And what do they hurt off out in the country somewhere? So to me, I take a different view. I've said in this meeting in the past, I'd rather see one of those than an $89 tin shed from Walmart. So,
Other discussion, commissioners?
Dwayne, do you have?
Oh, yeah, I
'Cause
can
I
wait
do
my
have-
turn.
Because
but,
I do have a couple of things, but I just,
I think there's a separation between commercial and industrial and residential. Reading the planning commission's discussion, I would have to attend with Commissioner Rupp on that. His housing development, I believe, is 2.5 acre lots, and he is very much opposed to that. And I think I would agree in residential lots close to the city and the ones that are going to be developed, I think we're going to open a can of worms we can't close up. And I think I'm not in favor of the 2 acre lots for that reason. Commercial, industrial, those are already allowed in those districts, are they not?
That is correct.
I'll hold further comment to hear the rest of you guys first.
I don't have anything further. Commissioner Pishney?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I did sit in on this planning commission meeting, and there was a very robust discussion. I think robust would be a proper word for that, and a split vote of 4-3 with regard to the not approving. So I found that very interesting and found the discussion to be very interesting. But my question, Mr. Chairman, is to our council and to Mackenzie with regard to the revisions, with regard to is everything included that you thought the county should have included, other thoughts, because you are our representatives in helping advise us on this. So I'll look to the two of you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mackenzie Phillips, Development Administrative Coordinator. So when we looked at it, we were just trying to clean up some of the language. We were really respecting the applicant's wishes for this amendment. And so what we did was we took what she had requested, and then we just tried to clean it up a little bit. So we think that everything has been addressed on that standpoint, bringing it before you today. Now, I will say with the talk of not allowing the metal containers within the development envelope, that would not benefit the applicant at all because she is within that development envelope. So I will say that this is an amendment that was paid for by this applicant, and that would not help her at all. So,
Thank you.
Kara, do you have anything to add?
No, I think it really was with an eye at looking at it with where it would be cleaned up, at least before the commission looked at it, but still within the bounds of sort of where the applicant was looking at it, is what we were doing when we were going through it. But obviously, I think that there could be more to this one if we were looking at it as a global standpoint rather than from what the applicant wanted.
And then finally, Mr. Chairman, back to Alicia. Thank you, Mackenzie. From the discussion in the Planning Commission, there had been some research done, if you will, with other counties. And I know some of that's in our printed materials and so forth, but can you just verbalize that?
Yeah.
Not only for us, but for the public?
Yeah, so in the report, some other counties that we looked into, Sumner, Saline, Wyandotte, Seward, Reno, and Douglas, they all permitted them. They did have some more strict requirements they did state, you know, it securely be anchored per the code. Ours doesn't strictly say that. However, it does say they have to meet all the building codes, which would be implied as the same. And then it not be permitted in floodplain unless a flood development permit and securely anchored with an engineered tie-down system. They talked about it not being stacked, it being painted and well-maintained, no more than 2 structures per permitted property, and then it meet all the zoning requirements for setbacks, which would still apply in this amendment. They'd have to meet the same setbacks as an accessory structure. So nothing within the front yard. It would be a main one, so you would still see the house first versus seeing an accessory building.
And then lastly, Mr. Chairman, my last question to you, Alicia, is that within the discussion, within our materials and so forth, there's requirements not more than 15% of the property is taken by this. Also consideration for septic systems and so forth. Am I correct on that?
That is correct. Any accessory structure can't be more than 15% larger than the primary structure. That's for any accessory, that wouldn't be just for the metal container, unless, you know, they ask for a variance or conditional use permit for it to be larger. But yes, you are correct in that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Jones?
So you haven't brought these revisions back to the planning commission yet, the way I understand this whole flow?
That is correct. So what we presented to the Planning Commission would be Resolution 2. However, we've worked with the county to kind of clean it up and separate it out. So there's not much difference. It's just actually separating it out to make it flow a little bit better.
Well, I'm kind of like Commissioner Drees. I would have a hard time, you know, I don't want to go against the planning commission because I think they've studied it a lot harder than I have. And once we get these policies set in place, I hate to see us change midstream. And, you know, and I can see what Dave's talking about, but that won't apply here anyway, so. Thank you.
I like the idea that they decide and then we'll review it. I don't like the process of us giving an opinion when the matter isn't as ripe as it could be for our decision-making. I would move that or I would not make a motion, but I would suggest that we send it back to the Planning Commission with your work and give them an opportunity to look at these proposed changes and make a recommendation to us. In other words, I see it as a procedural gap, and I know that holds up the applicants for another month or maybe a little more, but this issue of containers in the county is a big issue, and we need to have it fully vetted, and it needs to go back to the Planning Commission as to what staff is actually recommending so that they have a chance to vote on it.
Mr. Chairman,
that's my 10 cents worth.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at the alternatives, and that would be alternative 4, if I'm not mistaken. But do you feel like that you have enough from us specifying the basis for us sending it back? Or do you need more information from us if we were to make that motion?
Yeah, I think we'd probably like a little bit more information on exactly what you guys are wanting. And I'll let Kira correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that Resolution 1 versus Resolution 2 are too much different on what's actually allowed besides separating them out.
Commissioner Drees?
Further comment, I'm reading this and both resolutions have a structure that has previously been a wheeled vehicle. To me, that means semi-box trailer. That's a definite no. I can understand the storage containers. They're much more solid, but the box trailers are definitely, for me, is a no-go. And I do appreciate the fact that those metal containers are probably the cheapest solution to a storage. However, my construction guys in the table of knowledge point out that those things cannot be painted without special treatment, because those people have tried. Paint peels right off of those original containers. So if you think you can paint them and pretty them up, you can't. So, my thoughts.
Still got plenty of time for discussion from the commissioners. I can just speak publicly that I'm opposed to the use of the containers without a uniform policy. And I think that the planning commission is the right place to have the first swing at this policy, and these resolutions they've not voted on. And I respect the judgment of the planning commission to have a good idea of what we need. And only in those circumstances when 2/3 of this board thinks that it should overrule them is the proper process to do that. So hearing a good consensus, I believe alternative number 4 is what we're looking at.
And I just wanted to add to Commissioner Drees on the wheeled or previously been wheeled. That's how it currently reads. So just wanted to let you be aware that anything that's 5 acres or more would be allowed to do that.
Well, I would suggest that the planning commission take a look at this again, and really, I would have to agree with what Commissioner Drees said on the wheeled vehicles. You're really getting into, the ocean-going containers that everybody uses versus storage containers are a little different, way different than just a wheeled vehicle.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we choose alternative 4 and return this to the planning commission.
It's been moved that we return
I'll
back.
second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Drees. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The chief came in after I had gone by his time on the business items. Chief, how are you? I hope that it wasn't an emergency. And if not, please give us your updated report. Keep in mind that all of us have read the statistics. Give us the view from 30,000, would you?
Yeah, so this is something that we do for our city commission, and wanted to provide an update for the county commissioners to let you know what's going on in your county. As you can see, the first quarter, it breaks it down by call, and we responded to 67 calls within.
Microphone over to you,
Oh.
Chief, please.
Sorry, it feels like it's in my, I apologize. So it just breaks down the first quarter and lets you guys know what is going on in the county. So when we start having to make some educated decisions, if we don't get any rain, that you know what's going on. So after this one's a quarter one, but after that, we'll just provide monthly updates to you guys. And we'll have fire department personnel present to answer any questions. This kind of conflicts with agenda planning at the city. So probably an on-duty battalion chief will come over and provide updates for you. And I'd be able to answer any questions if you had any.
Why do you think the number of calls to the townships are higher in the 2 townships, namely Garden City and I forget the other one?
Sherlock.
Population, would be my guess, would be more populous in those areas. So Garden City Townships, outskirts of Garden City, and then Holcomb proper, so.
I know that, does anybody have questions of the chief with regard to the quarterly update? Yes, sir.
Are the townships prepared or a little better prepared for grass fires now that we've had so many over the years? Have they updated their equipment to handle these a little better, or where do you stand on that?
So Garfield Township is the only ones that have actual fire trucks that I know of that are functioning. Pleasant Valley and Sherlock Township and Garfield Township both have trucks. The other 4 do not. So we're primary response on them, but Garfield does a really good job. Since they're so far out, they'll cancel us if it's not anything serious. And then we are working really close with Chief Frizzell out of Holcomb and starting to build mutual aid contracts, and they are starting to help us respond if the grass fires are getting bigger. So,
And those 2 townships have better equipment to handle grass fires?
yeah, I believe Garfield just received a new truck. So,
Yes, sir.
Chief, some years ago, I came over as a county employee with Chief Shelton, and he was advocating for a little help from the county on a rescue, I think it was Rescue 22, does that ring a bell?
Yeah, 622.
And I forget the cost of that, but it was kind of a high dollar piece of equipment, and Alan pointed out that that would be around for 20 to 25 years. Is it still around?
So we did discontinue that truck a year and a half ago, but it was a 98, so it made it well over 20 years.
The reason I'm bringing that up is he made a point that that rescue vehicle, 85% of its calls be out in the county. Is that still true?
Not for that truck, but the engine, yes,
With
yeah.
that-
It may, every major highway accident, it responded to, so.
So it was rather enlightening to see where those calls go to. So anyway, thank you.
You're welcome.
No other questions. Thank you for the report and the update. I'm sure as it gets closer, we'll have to have your opinion and assistance with regard to fireworks.
Yes, sir.
And we thank you for your service.
Yeah, you're welcome, thank you.
We'll get back on the schedule. We have for our consideration the EMS third-party billing agreement. Skylar, you have the floor, sir. Please make sure everybody knows who you are.
Sure. Thank you guys for seeing me. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is just making you guys aware of the what we're doing for billing for EMS. So you used to bill in-house, and we've lost that biller. We've been unable to replace the in-house biller that we've used. So we decided to reach out and find a third-party biller for that. And so the one we've chosen is QuickMed Claims. They are, we can probably go ahead and go into that, I'm sure you've all read all of the information that's there. So what they'll do for us is they'll handle all our billing for our EMS runs. Okay, so they do an automated download. So as soon as we're done, we write the report, we mark it ready for billing. Then they automatically download that and get it right into the process of billing it. They have a team of people to do that rather than just one person. The amount of billing that we run close to 4,000 calls. Approximately half of those are billable. And that is right at the very, very upper limit of what one person can handle. So we kind of started seeing a drop off there due to some other duties that person was doing. So this one, we have a dedicated team that is dedicated to billing out for us. Their fee is they collect a 5% fee of our collections. So they only charge us for what money we actually pull in. So that's going to roughly, I think if we pull in $600,000 worth of revenue, their fee is going to be about $30,000, which is very, very close, if not slightly less than what it takes to pay for one in-house biller. Additionally, well, I guess I'll talk about that later. My next presentation will talk about a change to our service fees that will hopefully have a pretty increase on our revenue that we pull in. I think we have a PowerPoint on that, I believe. Additionally, they are going back and doing some back billing for us. We got into business with them on March 1st, and they are actually going back and getting some of the missing bills that we have for the previous year, for the time that when we lost our biller. They have a little bit extra fee for that. I think they're up to 6% for those back billing. But once they get to the ones that we're billing now, it's only 5% of what they do. Do you have the PowerPoint on there? Should be. I can bring up my own here. I'll just talk through it on. I should say something like. something like billing service. I'll pull mine up here real quick and bring up some data on it. That's the extra stuff there that they can kind of look at here. It's an actual PowerPoint presentation. All right. I'll just kind of go through mine here. So just kind of give you an idea of what we do. So our current workflow for EMS is technicians utilize our Image Trend, which is a different program. That's where we generate our EPCR, our patient care record. And that's how we document everything that we do on that call. At the conclusion of the call, they write that up, they mark it as ready for billing. And then again, that service is free. That software package is free thanks to this Kansas State Board of EMS. Once it's marked complete or ready for billing, it goes through a QA process for us where we take a look at it and QA it through a medical perspective, make sure everything's how we think it should be, and then we mark it ready for billing, which then auto-exports it to the QuickMed claim. So they automatically pull those in and they start working on billing that immediately. QuickMed Claims looks at our call, they decide what level do we need to charge this. This is a BLS level charge, advanced level charge. And then they go through that and they bill those out. The collections are obtained through EFTs, check or credit card transactions. That all go through QuickMed Claims. QuickMed utilizes a variety of portals. Oh, good. Go back just, there we are, yeah. QuickMed Claims uses a variety of payment portals through various vendors, insurance vendors, Medicare, Medicaid, to submit those claims via electronically rather than waiting on a actual bill to go back and forth through the mail.
Skylar, I'm going to interrupt you for a moment just to kind of segue to what I think is something that I would want to be able to understand about the services that you're proposing. If a citizen, especially of my district, got a bill that was incorrect from QuickMed, what abilities do you have locally to be able to address the citizen voter of the 4th District about how the billing is incorrect?
So one of the things that drew me to QuickMed Claims is they have what they call a QB portal, and so that means I have the ability to go in there and look at directly at what's going on with that. I can search it by trip and look in there and say, okay, this is what we've done. This is why they've billed it this way. So I can take a look. I can do that from my side, at least give them information on the fly. Additionally, they can always call and speak with QuickMed Claims as well. They have a very good customer service relations department that's very quick in ascertaining those. I think we would be able to handle any of those if they thought it was incorrect due to overcharged, undercharged, or didn't charge the right insurance. They can call me and I can look at it and be like, I can tell them exactly, this is the insurance that they charged, and they could say, hey, no, I need you to charge this insurance. I can get on that portal, I can put that information directly into that portal, and it's to them immediately. It's not even waiting on an email.
That addresses my concern. I just didn't want local to have to go somewhere else to get a billing question answered or resolved.
Yeah, that can come through me, and I can, if they have to add insurance, I can sure do that.
Please continue.
Well, one thing to know, all payments are deposited directly Finney County. QuickMed Claims never takes possession of our money. All right, if it's an EFT, it's directly into our accounts. If it is if they mail in a check to them, that check is through an e-services, which I'll speak about at our next commission meeting. That puts that money directly into our accounts. They never possess our money at all. Patients can pay directly online through a credit card portal if they don't want to mess with mailing in a check. If this is mainly for private pay, again, money deposited directly into Finney County. Okay, just QuickMed Claims. If you want to, they work in 40 states. They've been in business over 31 years. A reputable company. Some of the portals and other insurance companies I've talked to, when I brought up QuickMed Claims, they said yes, we do a lot of work with them. Right now, like I said, 5% of our collected revenue, so we're looking at a cost of about $30,000 annually. Removal of an in-house biller will reduce EMS salary. And when my next presentation, when I talk about a proposed fee increase for EMS services, we're looking at a conservative increase of $59,000 annually. So do you have any questions about this billing company that we have? So I jumped the gun here on this a little bit. Normally, this should have been brought to you before we signed the contract, and I apologize for that. So we are in business with them, and I should have done that. But this should be a preliminary meeting, not, hey, by the way, this is what I did meeting, so I do apologize for that. So any future references like that, any future dealings like that will come before you prior to. I'll be asking permission rather than forgiveness on those. 5%, I did do three. I didn't just pick them out of the blue. I did do 3 of them, and one was 8%. Another was 5%. 5% seems to be pretty standard from what the research that I've done, but what set them apart from the other one was this portal that they had. This what they call a QB portal, which gave me real-time access to pretty much any information that I needed.
Skylar, quick question. You said that most of your fees are, well, I guess I should ask you, are most of your fees that they collect from insurance companies or from private pay?
So right now, as far as what we actually collect from, let me pull this up here real quick. I guess it's in our next one here. I've got a payer mix. So right now, private pay doesn't pay much. It's about, of actually what we collect, it's about 5.8% of what we actually collect. And now, the vast majority of our write-offs are on private pay.
Okay.
All right, and then Medicare is about 47%. Okay, they're the big ones for us. Blue Cross Blue Shield is 17%. Other insurances are 22%, and Medicaid is 6.5%. So Medicare is our big payer by a large margin.
So it seems improbable to me that we have to hire somebody and give them 5% of the fees that the insurance companies owe us. You know, I just, you know, I can see on the private pay where you'd have to go to argue with somebody over a private pay, but you would think that the quasi-governmental facilities would pay back and forth to each other when they're owed. But
Right. What I think I kind of look at is what we're doing is the 5% fee is basically that's the fee for them to do the actual billing for us, filing the billing. So like I mentioned before, we can do it in-house, you know, but I have to pay someone to do that, you know, so.
I'm following you now.
Yeah.
I thought it was strictly collection.
No, it's 5%, it's 5% off of what we collect, that's
I
their
know,
fee.
yeah,
But they have to be the ones
what
to
you're saying.
submit it, okay?
So we're saving a position within EMS by doing the contract.
Correct, we would not need an in-house biller for it. And additionally, if we wanted to go with an in-house biller, I probably would have to hire another one to be able to handle the call volume.
Sir.
Well, Mr. Chairman, and I'm ready to make a motion too, but it would be more than just the 32,000, would it not? Wouldn't it?
That was strictly salary.
Right. So there's retirement. and
Yep.
health and so forth.
Yeah, there's more.
It's much more than that. So I mean, yes, I like having human beings in offices. I'm a face-to-face kind of person, but I think financially this makes sense based on our numbers that we have in front of us. Mr. Chairman, I would move that we affirm Skylar's ability to sign the document in engaging QuickMed Claims Billing Services.
All right, I would ask for you to clarify your motion, that the commission ratify the contract signed by Skylar on 12/12/22. Is
Well,
that your?
Yeah, ratify, affirm, yeah, I mean, yeah, ratify is fine. I'm fine with that word as well.
Is that satisfactory to you, Ms. Shorts?
That's why I was using the word affirm, but.
Yes.
Okay, it's been
Ratify is acceptable to me, yes.
been moved that we ratify the contract signed by Skylar dated 12/22/22 with QuickMed Claims LLC. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded on this issue of the contract dated 12/12/2022. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I would caution Skylar on contracts. We have a county counselor. I think we ought to be using that, and the proper procedure is for her, those contracts to go to her before it gets to us for approval.
And I do believe, this was prior to my time as being county council, but it was my understanding that Ms. Lobemeyer did actually review it prior to, so there was some review by county council as well.
It was reviewed prior to me signing it, but I signed it prior to talking to you.
Well, not just the chairman, us.
Well, I meant you as a board.
'Cause I wasn't even sworn in.
Hey, I'm sorry, Jerry.
But, Mr. Chairman, and that was during my time as chair, and I thought Linda had reviewed it, but yes.
There's nothing in that contract that is unfavorable to us, and I think the cost of that will be resolved by the next issue on the agenda, which is rate increase for EMS services. And we have the proposed charges, and this will more than double the cost of the contract that we just passed. And the real discussion to me is that, are we ready to make, get up to speed sort of mindset, or whether we want to stay stagnant as to where we are on the cost to the people that are serviced by EMS. And there's a lot of different ways to look at this, folks. So you can say that, well, we ought to just hold the line on any service costs. Or two, we can look at the fact that one new unit costs $300,000. I personally, Skylar, know that we have to update our services. We have to have ambulance services. And personally, my comment is that the proposed charges should be approved. So if that bypasses your presentation, I'm sorry, but
You're not,
I think that we got to cut to the chase. The proposed charges are reasonable and the information adequate for me to make a decision. So questions from the commissioners with regard to the proposed rate increases?
Skylar, now, individual EMS units all around the state can set their own fees for whatever they want, or you guys all
pretty
try
much,
to?
yeah, you can set it however you want. There's some rules around that, but essentially, I can, within range, I can't charge $5,000 for a call.
How's that compared to, what's your closest, biggest EMS provider, Ford County or?
Yeah, Ford and Seward is less, but Ford, Seward, and Finney are the closest ones normal, and their fee charges are similar. Now, I know that the proposed changes are based on the average for the EMS region, and even talking with the other billing companies that I did bids with, they were like, your charges are too low. These were granted, they're the billing company, they have a reason to want me to charge more, but they said they're too low. And these were last updated in 2016.
And the payer mix that, you furnished us with,
So what to note here though, Medicare already pays the most of what they're gonna pay. They don't update now, so Medicare, we're not gonna get more from Medicare. Well, they already pay what they're gonna pay. But the other insurances, especially with auto accidents, stuff like that, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, other insurances, they do pay more.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'm prepared to offer a motion if you're prepared to accept one.
Well, I just don't want to cut off anybody's discussion. Commissioner Drees, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Pishney? Commissioner Jones? All right, motion, sir.
All right, I'm going to make a statement ahead of the motion. I recently had a friend that enjoyed a helicopter ride to the hospital at Hayes. And he was telling me how expensive that helicopter was. But he said, after getting to Hayes and getting the service, he would have been glad to write him a check for that helicopter. It was well worth it. That's kind of like Skylar's service. I've happened to have been a participant, and I appreciated when Skylar and crew showed up at my house. And so with that in mind, I'll offer a motion to authorize the rates as presented or their alternative to.
Second?
Been moved and seconded to authorize the rates as presented, alternative two. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Skylar.
Thank you.
No more contracts without commissioners.
Okay.
All right, Beth, we have, I think we can get your adult corrections comprehensive grant mostly done in 10 minutes before we recess, but if we don't, if we get to a breaking point at 9:30, I'll interrupt you and we'll take a recess.
You might be able to get through both in 10 minutes.
I'll just see how efficient you are then.
Abbreviated version.
Well, good
There's
morning.
plenty of reading here.
Oh, yes, I won't read it to you. I won't put you to sleep this morning. My name's Beth Beavers. I'm Director of the Department of Corrections. We cover the 25th Judicial District Adult Corrections and the Juvenile Services, as well as the Juvenile Detention Center. So just a quick background, and this will cover both the adult and the juvenile background, is our funding is provided through the Kansas Department of Corrections, and that is per statute 755291, and that's for the adults, and 757038 for the juveniles. This covers all 31 districts within the state of Kansas. That funding is done, it's a competitive grant, and it is done through a funding formula on both the adult and juvenile. So really what we're looking at for the adult corrections, the comp plan covers what we did in previous years. So this one would be covering the FY22 year. Where did we fall within our goals, objectives? For that, Kansas Department of Corrections sets a goal for all adult corrections to have a 75% successful rate of all closures of our adult felons. In FY22, we reached it and above with 86%. 68% of those were actual successful closures, and 18% of those were considered unsuccessful closures by the court. So unsuccessful could have been they were in revocation and they only owed money, so the court unsuccessfully terminated them. As far as organizational needs, we don't have any organizational needs other than we need more staffing. That has been an issue with the adult and the juvenile, is getting applicants trained. We did have 114% turnover last year. 2 of those ISOs, 2 of the 4, we lost to court services, and that was solely the OJA pay scale that they raised up to $22 an hour, I believe, 22 or 24. The other 2 moved on for just better opportunities that they were seeking. Part of our monitoring and evaluation of these grants and goals is we audit 10% of our caseload. At the time of doing this comp plan, we had 418 active and inactive clients. Of those, 239 were actively being supervised within our district. One of our big changes for the adult corrections plan is we received $60,124 for a behavioral health grant. We have probably had this grant for approximately 10 years. We have funded a position out of this grant. And taking a look at the numbers over the past few years, those numbers have declined. So this is teaching anger management, social media, classes. So we've seen a drastic decline. This year, we took a turn with mental health being so prominent anymore in the community and turning that 60,000 into funding for mental health services. That's treatment, that's evaluation, that's medications. So we hope to really make an impact more than what we have with this funding. Any questions so far on the comp plan piece?
Well, in real numbers, we're applying for a $538,000 grant.
589,
Excuse me.
that's all right.
So,
583, 984.
correct. And what was our grant before?
We are flat funded again this year.
Okay, flat funded means
That's what we got last year
same amount.
and the year before.
As I looked through the materials, we have a grant signatory approval form, which you've already signed as recommended, and then it's subject to our approval. Is that correct?
Yes, Commissioner. And can I just make one observation for the budget real quick? This $583,894.12 does not cover our entire budget. If you'll look on there, it covers the majority of our staffing, and it will cover our rent for next year. What you don't see, what will come later in our carryover reimbursement budget, is this doesn't cover any operating expenses, and it doesn't cover 2 substance abuse counselors' benefits and program.
Are those positions currently filled?
Those, yes, they are filled. We currently fund those through current reimbursements and carryover reimbursements that we receive from the substance abuse program and client fees.
Is that the end of your presentation?
That is.
So, commissioners, let's have questions with regard to the 68 pages that are in this bundle of documents that comes down to our approval of the 2024 Adult Comprehensive Plan and Signatory Approval Form.
The only question I have, Beth, is kind of a meeting schedule. Do we have one scheduled coming next month?
We do. We have an adult advisory board coming up on Tuesday, the 25th. We have a juvenile.
No, for the ones I have to attend.
For the Juvenile Detention Center, I'm hoping in May. I'm working on that budget and working with Jenny as well on getting those numbers.
We have our, help me out, commissioners, speaking out loud here. So the Juvenile Detention Center budget is not an outside agency, but rather funded through the budget process. Help me out.
Go ahead.
Do you mean? The Juvenile Detention Center budget is based on a consortium of 15 current counties in southwest Kansas, so that is based on a funding formula as well of bed day usage. Finney County is the host county.
So are we going to have 15 county boards sign this, or just us?
For these two, it is the 6 counties covered under the 25th Judicial District. So this doesn't cover any of the Juvenile Detention Center.
Thanks for the education. Anything else, commissioners?
Would you like a motion
Yes.
to approve her request?
Yes.
I'll offer that motion.
Is there a second to the motion to approve the grant signatory approval forms
I'll
as
second.
submitted? It's been moved and seconded to approve the forms for Beth. The comprehensive plan for grant signatory approval. All those, is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gabby, tell me where you want me to sign. Right, with that, you have more?
I still have the juvenile comp
Okay.
plan.
Would you make that presentation?
Yes.
Dispatch.
One thing I didn't cover in the background was the 6 counties that we cover under the 25th Judicial District. Finney County being the host county, meaning that we follow county hiring policies, practices, and they are Finney County employees. Same funding goes under Kansas Department of Corrections for the juvenile comprehensive plan. We follow a lot of the same guidelines when it comes to goals and objectives, one of them being the 75% successful rate of the case management and probation piece. One piece of the juvenile comp plan that is covered in here is 2 of the preventions. We have 2 prevention officers. These 2 prevention officers are funded through Finney County. We are one of the only counties and districts in the state of Kansas that still supports a prevention program. What this program does is we have a school, we have an MOU with the school district to provide education for long-term expelled youth. So it's a place for them to come into the building, receive support for their Edgenuity program and schooling. The other piece of that prevention program is offering free education to all of the youth in Finney County. We get with the school districts, find out what needs there are, whether it be social media awareness, bullying, how to handle difficult feelings. So we run many different programs throughout the year. That budget is not in here. We also have the Juvenile Intake and Assessment Program. This program is a 24/7 program. This covers police protective children, so anyone in the 6 counties, law enforcement that take a youth from the home at any hour for any reason, we will sit with them until court. That's usually a 72-hour period. We also put them in our shelter if they meet the age requirements at the Juvenile Detention Center. We also run the IIP program, that's the Intermediate Intervention Program. This is the old diversion program that used to be within. That statute is 382346. And then on to the, well, do you have any questions on the comp plan piece? This budget is much more robust at $899,409.49. This funds 100% of the program, unlike the adult corrections. So this covers a lot of services for the youth, whether it be counseling, substance abuse evaluations, medications, housing assistance, transportation, and incentives.
Anything else, Beth?
Not unless you have questions.
Questions from the commission? It's wonderful. I don't think there's any action that needs to be taken. Thank you for the report and the update. I noticed that it's total proposed cost of $899,000, if I read that correctly.
That is correct.
And of course, you know, I can't miss the chance to know that it includes now and then buying some of our youth something other than, well, let's just say it this way, incentives. When they do well, they get some, the grant has some incentives for youth that do well, and includes this year perhaps maybe a PlayStation bike or some other odds and ends.
Yes, it does.
And I know that we, the government, are not adequate substitutes for parents, but I have found that offering rewards to children is a much better practice than merely harsh punishment. So I would encourage that.
Absolutely.
Anything else from the commission for Beth?
Just a motion.
What do you need?
A motion for approval on the juvenile.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion to approve the juvenile grant.
The fiscal year 24 Youth Services Comprehensive Grant.
Yes, sir.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve that grant. Is there any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll sign. Then before we get into staff reports, we'll take a 10-minute break and we'll reconvene at 9:45. staff reports, but before we get to that, on governance, would report that we had a very nice meeting with elected officials and staff with regard to goals for 2024. And I spoke with Jenny before the meeting today, and the outcomes of that will be discussed in our planning session the 24th, next Monday, and hopefully included in the commissioners' packets for the meeting on May 1st, which I will not be here and Commissioner Jones will be chairing. So with that, let's go to staff reports and development update from Mackenzie.
Good morning again, Chairman and Commissioners. Mackenzie Phillips, Development and Administrative Coordinator. I have a few updates for you today. The first is with Randall Estates. The developer did reach out to me last week, and he is almost to the point of having all of the eligible costs updated so that we can update and make that amendment to the RHID development plan. And he's also trying to move forward with getting his bond, performance bond, or possible letter of credit. We're looking into that right now of which we would prefer. And then once he has that in place, he can start the pre-construction meeting and get the process going of starting construction. So that's where we are with Randall Estates. Then moving on, Western Kansas Corridor, Phase 1. I did receive an update that they're almost done, or they might be done at this point with the asphalt for Phase 1. So that's exciting there. And then that's all I have for you this morning on the main developments. Do you have any questions for me on the main three that we have?
Well, you mentioned two.
Well, Country Acres there's no updates on that, but if you have any questions, I can answer anything.
Well, I do have a question with regard to dust control, and they're moving dirt out there. What is our ability to help remind people that when they're moving dirt, we need to be suppressing dust for the other people that are out there?
We do have, there is a infrastructure inspector over in the Neighborhood Development Services Department that is supposed to be looking at their SWIP and NOI to make sure that they're following all the procedures for all of the silt fencing and so on, and then make sure that they're also putting down water as they're constructing. So whenever we get those kind of complaints, we do reach out to Neighborhood Development Services to go and check it out.
Well, it's not my district, but consider this a complaint that they need to do a better job of controlling dust out there. Well, I know it's very, very dry. How do you move dirt? Ask my farmer to my left, how do you do anything in agriculture right now, let alone development? But I think that we need to be making sure that reasonable steps are taken, and I'll leave that to your office to enforce.
Okay. Is there a specific development that you are concerned about right now, or just in general? Sunset, okay.
Anything else, Commissioner Pitt?
Well, Mr. Chairman, with regard to Sunset, and I did turn in a complaint to Mackenzie, and she in turn to NDS. However, I don't know how we enforce it, but in that particular case, and I voiced this at the Planning Commission when one of the developer partners was present, but there were three pieces of equipment moving dirt and only one water truck, and one water truck trying to fill up and then get back and try to follow those pieces of equipment around. So I don't know if there's any way that we can, other than just saying, hey, it's too dirty, shut it down, or whatever. I'm concerned about our process on how we control that, because it seemed to me like we needed at least two, maybe three water trucks on those particular days, following each of those dirt-moving pieces of equipment. But I did turn in the complaint at the time, and they're going to start moving some dirt again, and we'll need to keep an eye on it.
You used some acronyms with regard to the development agreement that I didn't understand. Would you repeat those acronyms and spell them out for me?
It's SWIP and NOI. So the SWIP would be the Stormwater Protection. So that would be for when we would get rain, that there was that silt fencing and so on. Then the NOI is the, sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. It's notice of intent.
All right, well, I think that our development agreement has some safeguards to make sure that we're using adequate measures to suppress dust. And of course, our county councilor will tell us that we have a responsibility to keep our soil on our own ground without trespassing on someone else, even if God's in charge of the wind. All right.
I have one more update, not related to our main developments going on in the county right now. This is in regards to the public hearing for the rezoning of the property at Marion 8th, which is the proposed property for the new health department and EMS facility. We have been in contact with the Neighborhood Development Services Department. They would like to push this rezoning to a future meeting, and the reason for that is that the city has redone a few of their processes for vacating roads and easements. And so with this particular property, there is a platted right-of-way on the property as well as a existing easement. And so we were under the assumption that we could take care of that during the replatting process. And we were notified by city legal that they would like to go through a separate ordinance to get the right-of-way vacated. And so that will be going before the May 16th meeting, city commission meeting. Once that is vacated, then we will be platting it and doing the rezoning. So that public hearing that was supposed to be at the planning commission this week will not be on the agenda. Any questions?
When is our being the Board of County Commissioners request to have this easement for streets or alleys vacated coming before the city commission?
The vacation of the road?
Yes.
That will be going before the city commission on May 16th.
Very good.
Thank you.
I forgot to ask, anybody else have any other questions for Mackenzie? All right, thank you, Mackenzie. All right. Trista, you have the comm.
Hello, I'm Trista Joyce, County Treasurer. In front of you, you have a report on interest earned on idle funds during the first quarter of 2023. A couple different highlights for you. So in the first quarter of 2023, we earned more interest on idle funds than we have on any year since 2015, the entire year, not just the first quarter, largely due to interest rates coming up and also the new budgeting practices that have been implemented over the past few years to build reserves. So as of March 31st, 2023, we earned $431,742.29 on idle funds. So an update looking forward, in April, we did take out an additional $7 million in CDs, treasury investments, and you'll find those results as well from the bidding process with that. So looking forward, in addition, what we have been able to do in April, we have been able to reach out to other financial institutions that are eligible to receive funds from Finney County. I believe we've covered all of them, and make contact so the next time that we go out to bid for CDs, we can include all eligible financial institutions rather than a select few. That's important to make sure that everybody, does have a place at the table, and also to make sure that we are receiving the best rates. So I'd like to speak to a couple different things. So we currently do have a PEG balance at Commerce Bank. That's in relation to the decision to to use Commerce Bank for banking services. That decision was made in December of 2018. Now, that $10 million is used to offset any banking fees. Part of that decision in 2018 was that we would not incur any fees. So in April, what I've done is worked with Commerce Bank to come up with some numbers and figure out what our banking fees are, see if it makes sense to go ahead and remove that PEG balance or to decrease it, so we do incur some fees. So if we were to remove the PEG balance as of today, annually, we would incur about $30,000 in banking fees for services. So that does correspond to the services that we do require, and also it does change according to our average balance. So if we were to remove that, we would incur the $30,000 in fees. However, we would earn an additional approximately $200,000 in interest annually if we were to remove that. And that would be if we just leave those funds where we are. Now, I believe that we can earn a much greater rate of investment by taking out some longer-term investments. So I would like just to get the commission's reading on what they would like to do on that. I think that at this point in time, it would be prudent to remove that PEG balance. But I would really like to have the commission's input, since that was a commission decision to not incur any banking fees.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. I preliminarily would comment that control of county funds falls in the purview of your elected office, and you're empowered by the people to take care of our money for us. As far as coming to us and seeking recommendations, I really appreciate it.
Sure.
And I'll ask other commissioners if they have any questions.
Well, conditions have changed considerably since we did sign on this deal, so I have no problem with you changing it, and anywhere your bottom line can increase seems like a good idea, because
Yeah.
it doesn't appear that the Fed is going to lower their rates.
I agree with that.
They're in the process of looking like they're upping them again.
As of this
Yes.
Yeah, they're talking about it. Mr. Chairman, I put my policy governance hat on when these kind of questions come to us, and the basic premise that I use is that staff, in this case, whether they're elected or non-elected, that they not be illegal, imprudent, or unethical. And this appears to be a prudent decision on your part, Trista, with regard to the alternative outweighs the current.
Well, I do have a concern that if the board made a resolution or policy by prior action, that the board should be the one that makes resolution and approves the treasurer to make that change, so that there's no issue of guidance problems between this legislative body and her executive authority. So I'd entertain a motion.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Or, Mr. Chairman, would it be appropriate for us to rescind that action and leave it more open-ended for the treasurer in the future?
It's either or, whatever it takes. I don't have any problem of discontinuing the policy of incurring no fees. And so then that leaves it to the treasurer to do what her statutory duties are. I would just comment that on that size of funds, they ought to be paying more than 2.54%. And I know that what we're doing is we're saying, well, we're not going to maintain a $10 million balance, but at the same time, their Fed overnight rate on money exceeds that, and we should be the benefit, the taxpayers should be the benefit of that, and not the stockholders of Commerce. And I understand that they have a large presence in our community and do viable and important work, but this is the public's money, and we're supposed to be good stewards of it.
Absolutely, and they will still, have the opportunity to bid on any investments that we do take out.
Well, I'm not suggesting that we should change the checking account.
Yes.
I'm suggesting that the checking account rate
Yes.
reflect their desire to keep that kind of money on hand, because the bankers really don't want our CDs as a short-term liability. I happen to represent a bunch of them. What they really want is our checking account. And if you choose to leave it at Commerce, they need to be paying the taxpayers the best rate possible, not a convenient rate. So with that, is there a motion to revoke the
Procedurally,
note?
was there a resolution, or how was it done?
It was done by motion.
It was done by motion?
Yes, there was
Okay.
an RFP for banking services, and that was part of the motion that they would select Commerce as long as no fees were incurred.
So if we move to revoke that action, that, in your opinion, would be appropriate as our council?
I believe that would be the appropriate course of action, yes, if that's what the commission chooses to do.
Therefore, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we revoke the previous action with regard to the bank fees.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we free up the treasurer to negotiate with Commerce or the depository bank of her choice for our checking and fees. Is that your motion, sir? Yes. Is that your second, sir? Yes, it is. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, and I really do appreciate your hard work on this. As we get to budgeting in 2024, these anticipated revenues will be greatly needed,
Yes,
rather than on the backs of homeowners.
absolutely. Thank you.
All right, Administrator Newberry.
I attended the Hendon Strategies kickoff with Lon, and I attended the portion where we toured the fairgrounds facility, but was unable to attend the rest of the day, so I'm pretty sure he will have some information on that. The fiscal committee has completed their meetings with outside agencies, first round, and we will be starting to work on departments this week and next week. And then I had received an email from the Assistant City Manager, Danielle Burke, expressing her gratitude for Paul and his help with the Windsor incident, and I would just like to read that. She says that she wanted to extend her appreciation for Paul and Emergency Management's response for the Windsor Hotel incident on Friday and over the weekend. It was a great example of our agencies working together and with other community partners to address an emergent situation. Paul was integral in helping get resources on site throughout the response that led to shoring up the building and removing the barricades. It was a very, very thorough response that included several stakeholders and much appreciated. And I just wanted to recognize Paul for that because he is called out at random times and helps with a lot of situations. And I felt like that was very nice of her to recognize him for that. And I think he also has information on a potential burn ban. Do you want to go ahead and?
Yes. As part of the administrator's report, we'll hear from Emergency Manager. And Paul, once again, as chairman, thank you for your quick response to the Windsor situation, and kudos to you for getting the accolades from the city and to others who were involved in that event. So let's talk about fire danger, and I asked also Jenny to check out what the state was proposing, and maybe you have that information for me.
We do have a little bit of information. KDAM's been taking surveys, Kansas Department of Emergency Management. We're looking at, right now, our fuel load isn't real great because of no water. Southwest part of the counties, in the sand hills, they're kind of eroding away, so they're taking the fuel with it. The northeast part of the county, we got a little heavier fuel load up there, so. But being in contact with the fire chief, and I was a little surprised he didn't kind of allude to it today. We've got a couple different plans in place in case we do have to issue a burn ban. After a meeting with National Weather this morning, long-range forecast isn't very promising. other than tomorrow, possibly high winds. We'll probably be moved out of a fire watch into a red flag warning again. And it looks like we could stay there most of the week. At this point in time, we haven't had a lot of issues with fires, just a few small ones. Nothing's got out of hand yet. And we haven't had any undue burning in the county, which speaks volumes for the citizens. They recognize the problems too. But if it comes to a time, we may have to do something with the ban. Now, I heard the fireworks. I think we're a little out of the realm yet on that, but we're hoping and praying for some rain. But the state's consensus is where we're all in the high wind, the dry area, we might want to consider it. There's nothing set in stone. I mean, they have resources available if we need them. There's been a couple of governor declarations declared ahead of this, so we'll see how that all kind of plays out. So last week we had 3,000 acre fire in Ellis County, one in Republic and one in Washington County. So the trouble's there. We're just fortunate right now, so.
Well, you don't have to travel very far in Kansas to know that the Flint Hills were ablaze in April, but their conditions are considerably different than ours.
Last week when I went to Lawrence for my training, couldn't see to drive down interstate once you got to Junction City because the hills were on fire. But you went 10 miles farther east and you couldn't see to drive because of the rain, so you got it all.
Well, you could do your best as the emergency manager to do your rain dance.
Well, yeah, that wouldn't be very good, I'm afraid, so.
Questions for Paul with regard to the proposition of burn ban, because I think that's where we're headed, but we ought to understand what that takes and what it means and be responsive now to understanding it rather than being asked to act on it in an emergency situation.
You know, it's always better to be proactive than be reactive, so that's kind of how we're looking at it. There's been a couple different proposals out there, but we're kind of waiting to see if by chance we do get a little rain or we start having a bunch of fires crop back up, we'll probably be coming and asking for a formal one, so.
Commissioner Jones, this is right up your alley.
He's doing a good job.
All right. Anything else we need to be prepared for?
No, all got it in hand.
Any other comments?
I would just say that, you know, we used to, a lot of farmers would burn crop residue, but the value of that has gone up so much that now it's viable to use it as a forage substitute, so I don't think you're gonna have many requests for fire.
Now, you know, talking with the fire chief, there hasn't been a lot of requests. Right now, their policy is nothing over 12 mile an hour to be burnt, you know, they're not gonna allow it. You know, they just had one the other day, a little grass fire out here on the east side of 50 that was started by, they believe a wheel bearing went out on a trailer, so what do you do? I mean, there's nothing you can do about that, but, you know, we've been fortunate, very, very
I would say
fortunate.
those are the ones that you have to be careful of, because we've had, I don't know if it was last summer or summer before last, we had one in Sand Hills where the wheel came off the back of a trailer and shot out in the field and caused a fire, but just have to be ready.
Yep, and you know, fire department, I believe, is doing a great job. They've got a couple new pieces of equipment, so hopefully they don't have to use them a lot.
All right. Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you.
Back to you, Jenny, and continue your report, please.
And the only other thing that I wanted to bring to attention, as we've worked through some pieces of the personnel policy this last couple of weeks, we weren't able to get things pulled together, but we wanted to let you all know that we have discovered there was a personnel policy committee that was created in 2017, and only one of 7 people still remains with the county that was named in that. So we will be requesting that administration be allowed to work on the policy with final approval from the Board of County Commissioners later this year. Kelly is working on a July 1 target for PTO changes, so we will request that dissolution at the next meeting so that she can get started on that piece for sure, and we will move through the remainder of it through the rest of the year. And that was all I had, unless there's questions.
Questions for the administrator? All right. Ms. Sharts, do you have a county councilor report, and is there any need for executive session on any attorney-client matters?
I don't know that we necessarily need to go into executive session for those. That matters that have previously been discussed in executive session are ongoing, and I continue to work with outside counsel on those. I don't know that there's any significant updates that need to be brought to the commission at this point. There's some new matters maybe on the horizon, which probably aren't quite ripe for discussion in executive session yet either, but probably at our next meeting, we'll have some updates that we'll need to go into executive session for. Other than working on that, I've been continuing to work closely with counsel for the city in working through various issues that have come up. I believe that's a good relationship that we have between the city council and myself, working through some issues that have come up just even within developments or with our own request for the rezone at the potential site for the EMS health department. Been working with HR on some other matters that have been redone by administrative policy as far as anything with the dress code, and working towards various other matters as we've gone along.
All right, very good. Any questions from the board to the county councilor? All right, thank you, Ms. Sharts. On the agenda next is from Dory Munyon, our clerk, and Gabby with regard to a schedule of events. I note with interest that we did not have the meeting with K-State's president.
It's on the 25th. Oh, that's not listed.
Yeah, it's not on, it's not listed,
I see
so
what you're saying, yes.
perhaps we need to pencil that one in, and would encourage members to participate in that. And what time is that on April 25th?
8:30 is the public session. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
There is another session, I would say, Jerry, that I thought I forwarded the email to each of you. Maybe I didn't. At 1:30 in the afternoon at the library with the president with regard to extension education for immigrant populations. I thought I forwarded that email to the commissioners, but that's another one that I think somebody from the county needs to be in attendance, and that is a day I'm in Hayes, and I will not be attending any of that.
So April 25th at 8:30, where at?
Clarion.
And the 1 o'clock Commissioner Finney?
1:30 is at the public library. And they like to have RSVPs, but I can't imagine they're going to shut the door on somebody. So if they do, Commissioner Larry Jones will take care of that.
No, Dave Jones, he's library representative.
Well, yeah, but you're the K-State alum, so no way.
Oh, Dwayne is too.
I know.
Well, we got all these alums that surely can get us in to see K-State's president while he visits Garden City. There's some big things going on with regard to the extension and K-State and educational opportunities. I would encourage the public to make those reservations and hear about what's going on. The session at 8:30 will cover that. The 1:30 is very specific as to assisting our folks in Southwest Kansas who are unfamiliar with public education to have a good insight as what the opportunities are for them. I will note that I'll be gone on the 1st for the regular session. I'm sure this is of paramount importance to the public in Finney County, but the crappie are running in the eastern Kansas lakes. And they need some rain to slow that down until I can get there. On back to the other items on the calendar. We have budget meetings with the outside agency starting on the 8:30 on the 18th and 19th. This is a very important time for all of us to hear from the outside agencies in the issue of budgeting. With regard to goals, as I said during governance, the administrator and I and that work group, including Dory and Gabby and county councilor, will be formalizing the 2 meetings that we had with regard to goals and budgeting and getting it put together and sent to the commission with dispatch prior to those agency hearings. Perhaps as available as May 1st, but we certainly want it to be done before we start the hearings. Anything else on the upcoming meetings and events that we should mention or bring to anyone's attention?
Question.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned a meeting on the 20th, but I didn't, maybe I misunderstood you. 20th of April, and don't have it on my list.
No, this is agency meetings are on the 18th and 19th of
Okay,
May.
all right, so I misunderstood.
All right, very good.
And mine's just a question, maybe more to Jenny, with regard to the 18th and 19th. And maybe it's to the two of you. How much time are we allowing? We're starting at 8:30. I'm just trying to get a sense for scheduling for my calendar.
We allotted a half an hour to each one of the agencies. We have 7 scheduled on one day and 6 on the other day, so we will probably run at least to the noon hour for sure.
Okay. I'm just trying to, because we've got a potential conflict on the 19th, but yeah, we'll be able to make that work. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And then, as entertaining as the legislative coffee was, according to the commissioners that attended, the final legislative coffee will be May 20th. I don't know whether that's more like a funeral of what happened to us or whether it'll be a celebration of information. I would note that the chairman of the House Tax Committee, Adam Smith, is from Weskin, Kansas, and was here last coffee. So when it comes to tax or taxation issues within the House, when you get to this point in the legislative session, those committees now, the House and the Senate both meet as committees as a whole. That's where the things get done. There's very little actual committee work done. But for future reference, at least for this legislative session for 2 years, Adam will be or Representative Smith will be the chairman of the House Taxation Committee. Let's see. Were there any other reports that I didn't get covered? In our packet, there were some other reports. Any questions, comments about those, commissioners? All right. Then let's go to the last item on our agenda, and we'll start left to right. Commissioner Davy Jones, your update on commission reports.
All right, I don't have much, Mr. Chairman, but had a local emergency planning committee meeting, and the health department kind of led the effort trying to find some resources for a resource directory, if you will. That's going to be shifted. I visited with the people there, including McKinsey, be shifted to be more of the responsibility of emergency management. Shrudi's doing a good job of trying to move things along, but that maybe is just, in my opinion, a bit out of her bailiwick, and so they're working on that, and will be in a product of the upcoming meetings. Also, I'm a member of Rotary, and so I regularly attend, but our last Wednesday's Rotary was sort of a special meeting in that we had some commissioners there and a county administrator assistant, and heard from Jay with one of the upper level personnel with Empirical, and he had a very interesting report, I thought. I don't know how the rest of you felt, but I thought it was good to hear from him. Then attended the legislative coffee, and that was kind of like the National Enquirer, so I'm not quite sure whether I'll get excited about going back to the next one or not, but I may. So, and then upcoming meetings tonight at 5 o'clock is our library board meeting. However, at 4 o'clock, the LS&S representative for us to deal with is in town, and she invites any of us that would like to come by and get better acquainted to do so at the library. And so Sue will be there at 4 o'clock, regular meeting at 5. And that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Dries?
Fair board meeting again, final plans, working up for the fair. It's coming up quite quickly. Seems to be in progress. A lot of discussion on concert, on weather, whether it's going to be outdoors, indoors. Right now it stands as that it's a high dollar concert. I encourage all of everybody in the community to check it out. It'll be a good concert. Looks like at my point, my understanding, it will be indoors due to the inconsistency of our weather. So anyway, that was
Won't be a rain out.
wind.
Oh, yeah, that's
Wind.
consistent.
And as many of you, I attend the legislative breakfast as well. This coming up week, we have a CVB monthly meeting and Great Plains monthly meeting. That's it.
Commissioner Jones?
Oh, okay. First of all, I attended a meeting between Economic Development and the president of the junior college and the area extension, I guess, covers western Kansas. Paul, I don't have my card with me, but I can get you his name. But what they're trying to do is work a consortium between the junior college and the extension, using some of the existing facilities out there at the Southwest Extension that they are underutilized, I think, right now. I guess it was interesting, too, they talked about economic development on some of these, like construction building and those type of things. They could get the funding to build a new facility if they wanted to do this. So I think it's interesting when you get the two education folks together and talk about the possibilities, and it'd be great for our area because, as you all well know, we don't have any 4-year colleges out here, but this way they could be a little closer tied to one. They do have agreements right now. They're working on an agreement with the JUCO president said with Newman, I think. Newman. Yeah, and so they're working that way. But the best way to get employees in western Kansas is to keep the ones we raise and don't send them out, because that seems to work the best. But it was a good meeting. Also, since we own the property, the county owns that property, we've just signed a long-term lease with the extension on it, but so we have to be involved. That empirical meeting at the Lions.
It's actually a Rotary meeting.
Rotary.
Yeah.
You could tell I'm not either one of those members, because I forgot which one was doing it, but it was very interesting. And there again, it's private industry working with our educational folks, and what they'll do for these students who want to go through the program at the junior college. I was amazed that they get them signed up, they go on the empirical payroll. They're going to school, plus they're getting paid. And as a student, I would say, why would you not be interested in a program like that? Attended the legislative coffee. I was attended, and that was about it. That's all I took out of it. It was too bad we had the opportunity to talk taxes and we didn't do it. That's it.
All right, Commissioner Pishning.
I did have a legislator reach out to me after that coffee and wondered where our tax questions were at the coffee Saturday, but I said, well, I guess we were bashful or something. I think it's noteworthy that we have a group in Washington, D.C. this week, Chamber, City, and others. I don't know that anybody from the county participated in that. And I'm not here to promote that, but I think once they get back, it'll be worthwhile hearing from them with regard to who they discussed things with, what staffers and so forth they met with. But I think they left yesterday and will be back toward the end of the week or midweek. I did attend the Extension District meeting. The thing that I think, other than they're searching for candidates for boardsmanship, is that they are working on memorandums of understanding, or MOUs, with the two county fairs, with Finney and Scott, because both fairs are done differently. Unfortunately, this year, that Scott County changed the date of its fair, and now both fairs are on top of each other in the same week. And I don't know if the MOU will help that, but just a better understanding of the role of extension and the role of the fair boards. I just simply verbally reinforced the notion that they need to get on top of the MOU project. I did attend the Planning Commission, as I alluded to earlier, and Economic Development Corporation board meeting. And also I attended the Chamber breakfast last month. I will not be attending this month because they moved it 1 week due to the Washington trip, and it's when I'm in Hayes. But if anybody else can attend, and Jenny, I don't know if you or anyone else, and you do have that date change, do you not, for county? But county has been good about having 2 or 3 people there each time, and I applaud the staff for doing so. On the 28th of April, it's on our calendar, and I didn't raise this question at the time when you had the calendar pulled up, Jerry, but I noticed that our county display time is 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. on the 28th of April in Stevens Park. Who's coordinating that, and is it any more than just a display, or are we planning to do?
I am waiting for final approval from the city to close off the roads on the east side of Stevens Park and then on the north side, so that we can have touch-a-truck events.
Some equipment and stuff?
Yes.
Oh.
If they approve our street closure, then we will have, Public Works will have some equipment down there, as well as the sheriff's office, EMS. Paul will have the command trailer. We'll have several vehicles down there. We will, from 3 to 7, and we will have tents set up in the park starting at 11. So the departments that don't have equipment will be in the park as
Yeah,
well.
I didn't realize we were doing or wanting to do the equipment thing.
Yep.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I hope that the city will see the wisdom in doing so. So, thank you for that update. And then lastly, it was referenced about Hunden, the assessment and of the facilities and so forth, and not only the fairgrounds, but we toured some downtown properties. The one that may be an event venue sometime in the future. The senior center and a few things, a few other facilities. Community college, for example, there was quite a bit of attention given to community college and what it has planned. And then we also had an open session with some hoteliers and eateries and so forth, and to get some input from them. So that was on the 5th of April. And Hunden plans to have a report back to us within 8 to 10 weeks, and I'm saying 10 weeks just to allow for their scheduling and so forth. So that's about when soon after that is about when we should be able to bring that assessment to the commission. So it's in process, and it was a little bit windy and chilly that first first part of that day, but overall, we gave them a fairly good Chamber of Commerce day while they were here visiting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. The chairman's report is that we have, I have attended the Compass Board meeting and various other meetings. I did not get to attend the legislative session. Sounds like I missed nothing. But I do want to commend the legislators and elected officials who make an effort to attend. I really want to shout out and give kudos to Representative Smith for making the trip here. And for those who don't know, then Senator Dahl and Representative Clifford go on to Hughton those days and also and Ulysses and do updates for those communities as well. It's important for them to be connected to the constituents and for us to be supportive of their efforts in representing us in Topeka. These are very challenging times, and we'll wait to see what the governor does with various tax bills that do affect county commission business. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn? Any other comments?
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I forgot to mention, the legislature tied to what you just said goes back into session on April 26th. So in a week from, what would that be, a week from Wednesday. And then lastly, just to confirm, I am registered to attend the Kansas Commissioners meeting next week in Hayes, and also the NACO meeting in Austin in July.
Very good. We've already resolved to pay those expenses for you to represent us at those very important meetings. I would note also that according to County Councilor Schartz, the Kansas Association of Counties has petitioned the court to submit an amicus brief to the court in support of the county's position on a pending matter there. That is very good news for governance of counties in Kansas. We will await the outcome and decision of that judicial proceeding as it plays out. Anything else, Commissioners? Yes, sir.
We have an item that's not on the agenda, but a little quick history. Pete Olson, as county administrator, was part of his contract was he was a member of Rotary at the county's expense. That then followed with Randy Partington. That offer was made to Robert Reese. Robert his agenda is such that he couldn't attend, but Jenny would be more than happy to be a member of Rotary, and I would be more than happy to suggest, following our tradition, that maybe the county pick that up. It'd run about $600 a year or so. But if that's something that we need to take action on an agenda or whatever, well, I would like to propose that.
That's your request for planning meeting on Monday, the 24th. I'll see that that item is on the agenda for May 1st for Vice Chairman Jones's administration.
All right, thank you.
Anything else, Commissioners? All right, motion to adjourn.
I so move.
All second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nay. We are adjourned.